Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Semi-Pro. I am Dalton Barrett, and in the studio with me, I've got my good friend.
Hi, I'm Josh Clements. Yes, I know what's going on.
Yeah, you knew it was happening. You knew I
Yeah, I know
started.
what's happening. I
Well,
wasn't, I wasn't, I wasn't reading my notes on this amazing movie.
I, I can't wait to talk about this movie. I genuinely cannot
Oh,
wait. We watched Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and last week we watched Mortal Kombat 1, and it was hard to sit through. And I'm very excited to hear your views on Annihilation because honestly, I think I liked it better.
yeah, I liked it better. Yeah, I'll say that I liked it better. I'm just gonna leave that.
All right, well, let's hop into it. Yes, we watched Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and welcome to this episode of Semi Pro. I just want to say, first and foremost, before we say anything else at all, what a movie. When Martin Scorsese was talking about how the Marvel movies aren't cinema, this has to be what he had in mind. Would you agree?
Oh, without a doubt, there is nothing more. Just I had my jaw on the floor this entire movie, and I don't know if it was for good reasons or because I was shocked at what I was watching.
There are genuine moments where I laughed. There are genuine moments where my jaw literally dropped to the floor. No, never for the reason that the filmmakers intended. However, from the opening scene, this movie is so beautiful. And it
Okay.
sucks because this is the one that's supposed to be
Well,
bad. And it is bad.
yeah,
Don't
this is the one. This is the one that's been like ridiculed for years as the bad Mortal Kombat. This killed the franchise of two movies, and this is better than the first one. Like
hold on. This is not a better movie than the first one. This
this is
movie is
it's
way
better.
more enjoyable, but it is
It's a better
definitely not a better
experience.
movie. Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
would if you held a gun to my head and made me rewatch one of these two, which is the only reason I would ever rewatch one of these two movies, I would pick this one in a heartbeat.
Oh, absolutely. You fell asleep in the first one, didn't you?
Yes, I
Or was
did.
that? Or was that? Was that Kong?
No, that was Godzilla. I fell asleep during Godzilla 98. I fell asleep during the first Mortal Kombat. I may or may not have had a few little dozes during this one, but nothing. I didn't sleep through the whole movie like I did 95.
Welcome, welcome to Semi Pro, where we rate movies on how fast they made Dalton fall asleep.
Yeah, well, no, Mortal Kombat 95, it was the first half hour, and then I was out until the final battle. I don't know if we really talked about that on the podcast, but I was talking about that movie completely blind.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. So speaking of, this movie picks up seconds after the first one left off, like
Sorta.
immediately.
I mean, sorta.
It recaps the first one and goes, "Hey, they all fought the day and everyone lived happily ever after." And then and then a giant demon appears in the sky.
Except for now he's
And
normal sized. He was a giant demon
yeah,
in the last one, but now he's a normal sized dude who looks just like
now
Johnny Sins.
See, I was gonna go with he looked like the mutant son from Fury Road, the bald like muscle bound 3-year-old. Uh, but yeah, so he appears, and like they in 30 seconds, you just kind of have to get used to the fact that only two characters returned because every other person read this script and went, yeah, this is just a huge pile of garbage, and I don't want my name associated
Yeah,
with it.
Sonya Blade and
Sonya
uh
Blade, Jax, Johnny Cage, Raiden, all of them were recast because
Right.
no one wanted to return to this awful franchise.
And then the to remedy that, I guess they immediately immediately kill off Johnny Cage. I mean,
But yeah,
within the first few minutes of the movie, he is on the ground dead.
yeah,
Uh,
Shao Kahn appears. Johnny Cage tries to kick him. He grabs him and he's like, "Hey, Raiden, come over here, and I won't kill Johnny Cage." And then it's like, Raiden, who, by the way, I will say that Raiden, I prefer this Raiden to the one in the first one because like
I
he
do
has more
too.
of a like more of a presence, you know, like he feels like a demigod, like he's meant to be. He doesn't feel like some dude hissing in a corner trying to be Norman Osborn.
Was-
Um,
but he was also so goofy later in the
oh god,
movie.
I yeah when he turns into a German Eurotrash rock star, I laughed. It was beautiful. It was the best thing I've ever seen. But yeah, so Raiden's like, okay, I'll surrender myself. And before Raiden even like moves, he kills Johnny Cage. Like, haha, I got you now. Did you? Because Raiden's still on the other side of this giant like pillar or whatever you're standing on. I don't think you got him. I think you just killed someone. And then they disappear, and they're like, "In 6 days, the world will be mine," and they just run off. And it's never explained why it's 6 days. It's never explained why they run off. They could have just killed them all there. I,
There's two or three moments in this where, and I can't find any sort of significance to why, but the 6 days thing comes when Shao Kahn enters and he says, "God made the earth in 6 days, and now I will destroy it in six." And it's like, well, aren't you a demigod? Like disproving Christianity within this universe? So why 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 does that matter? And then there's another moment later where Shao Kahn quotes scripture yet again, and it's very fascinating because there seems to be no reason for it.
yeah, yeah. So this movie is very strange. So, like I say, we're approaching this from two perspectives here. Don's never played any of the games, and I assume you just have like a vague
Oh,
know
I
of
have a pretty
some
good
characters.
knowledge of the games. I mean, nothing major. I know the characters. That's basically it. And that's with a Mortal Kombat game. That seems to be all you really need to know.
Well, yeah, every game they reboot the franchise basically. But yeah, I have a bit more knowledge, and so this movie. So do you remember when we were talking last week about Mortal Kombat? Like, I hate this movie because it is scene after scene of a character walking into a place, new characters appearing, they fight, one dies, and they move on with their lives.
Yes, I
That
love this movie because every scene is scene after scene of a character appearing. They walk, they fight, and one of them dies.
exactly. But this movie's better somehow. It has
No,
like
Josh,
the
you've got to
no
quit
no no
saying that. This movie is
no no no
not
no
better.
no no. I genuinely I look. I know that I'm a film bro, but I genuinely think like the fight scenes in this are actually better. They don't feel slow
No,
and
I will
sloppy.
say that. The combat
They
in
feel
this
like
movie is such a huge improvement over the first one, and I don't know why, but they nailed it in this movie. They went for a little
well
more stylized take, but the actual fight scenes are better.
yeah. Do you know fun fact? Ray Park stunt doubled Raiden. This was his first movie.
I did know that. I had heard that somewhere. That's
Um
one thing that baffled me throughout the whole thing. From that opening fight, I was like, this is better than the last movie, and it shouldn't be, because this movie is significantly worse in every other conceivable way. That
somehow it somehow looks older.
yes, the greens, they chroma keyed out the sky. If I could sum this movie up in one sentence, it would be they chroma keyed out the sky. I
They
don't know why they chose to do that, but they did it for
there's
the majority of the movie.
so the plot of the movie is basically that the outworlds are merging with Earthrealm, and everything's gonna come to hell, and so the skies are all like red and stormy, and things are going to everything's going to hell. It's all going wrong.
They're mostly
And
purple, Josh. The
right,
skies are mostly purple.
right, everything just kind of looks muddy. But there's so at the beginning of the movie, Shao Kahn and his generals appear. One of those generals is there's Shiva, there's Ermac, Mortaro. I'm trying to think about some of the other ones. Who's the main one? Sindel, Queen Sindel. And like they they stand there, and this green screen is so bad, but you can see on her shoulders and in her hair, like her body's being cut off actively because she's getting caught on the people behind her. It's amazing.
There's one shot where Raiden gets thrown into like this dust pile. And
Oh
you can
yeah, yeah,
see
yeah,
the
yeah.
the clumping, which is something that happens with chroma key if you do it improperly.
Badly, badly.
You can see like where instead of it being individual dust particles that come out, which is not the way you would want to film that if you know you're gonna. They had to have said after the fact, we're gonna chroma key out the sky.
Yeah, yeah. There's no other like answer.
There's no way they shot it with that intention, but he hits the because normally you'd have him fly into the thing and you'd add the dust in post. Simple, easy, you get it done with. It's over. But instead, you can see like the dust particles clumping, which is not what they would do naturally, of course, and on the green screen. And that for me was the shot where I was like, okay, this was unnecessary. Like you should not have done this to the sky.
See, for me, it was when Queen Sindel is talking, and her shoulder actively disappears because Ermac is behind her, and they think that that's the same body. Um, it it is so bad. But yeah, so then they all disappear, and Raiden's an amazing motivational speaker in this one. They're like, you need to get more warriors so that we can fight all of their warriors. And Liu Kang's like, didn't I just win like this Mortal Kombat thing? Can we not just go home and leave it? And he goes, you did great, Liu Kang. Now find more people.
I mean, yeah, that's
And so-
basically how it goes. Because Liu Kang, he's talking. He's like, yeah, we won. Like, what's going on here? Like, and Raiden has zero answers. He is zero help in this, other than just telling the team to go and find more team. Like that's it.
Yeah. So Katana and Liu Kang, who had kind of a thing in the first movie, they go off to find who is it? Nightwolf. Nightwolf.
But before we get to
is
there,
not-
I just briefly want to mention how much better Shiva looks than Goro in the
Oh.
first movie.
Yeah.
Still a little wonky because they decided to composite her arms, basically just mirror them.
Well,
Um,
it's basically a really buff woman who they just they took off her arms and then doubled it beneath them.
Yeah.
Um,
And so they
but
all
it
move
looks so
the
much
same,
better.
but it looks so much better than Goro did in the first one. And it's a really
She doesn't-
interesting way to do that effect too. I guess if you're filming on a green screen and you're chroma keying out everything, it would be somewhat easy. But it looks
Yeah.
significantly better than Goro did in the first one.
right. I mean, she doesn't look like a stick insect.
She doesn't look like she's gonna topple over every second she walks.
Her-
So
Her mouth moves in time with the words that she's saying.
when
These are
she
the kind of-
speaks, words come out. You know, it's pretty miraculous how far
Yeah.
technology has come in just 2 years.
It's amazing how great a movie looks when it acts like a movie.
Okay, so we're going to meet Nightwolf.
Right, they're going to meet Nightwolf, and Sonya's going to meet Jax, who in this movie has robotic arms for no reason.
And
Um,
and Sonya is very upset that Johnny Cage is dead. And that comes back up
Right.
later, so I'm going to keep mentioning it because they keep mentioning it. She is very, very upset that Johnny Cage is dead.
Right, yeah. But so Katana and Liu Kang run off to go meet Nightwolf, and they're traveling through these caverns to try and find stuff. And all of a sudden, Smoke appears, who's a character in the games, and he's a robot who tries to fight them, and they start losing. And this is kind of the point where I realize, hey, these fight scenes look really good. Like Katana and Liu Kang are punching, and they actually look like their punches are connecting to things. It's amazing.
It's in real
like-
time, like the speed is how it should
Yeah,
be normally.
They're not moving at half a second because they don't want to actually hurt people that they're hitting. It's almost like this movie's a fight movie.
Right. Well, that can't be stressed enough how much better the actual fights are in this movie than compared to the first one. That's not the first movie's biggest issue, but it's one of them. And this movie does fix that. As bad as this movie is, this movie fixes the combat issue from the first movie.
Like no, like in an instant. Because Smoke and a bunch of goons fight them, and they fight back and they win, obviously. But then Sub-Zero comes to the rescue, uh, and he freezes Smoke, who blows himself up.
In a much better design than the last one, I will say too. Not well, I say much better, not much better. In a better design than he had in the last one, Sub-Zero appears.
Right, and they're like, "Hey, didn't I kill you by throwing a bucket of water at you?" And he goes, "Yeah, that was my brother. We're all good now."
Is that a game thing? Is that I felt like that had to be a game thing because they wouldn't have thrown that in there if it wasn't from the game.
So in the game, in the first Mortal Kombat game, Sub-Zero gets killed by Scorpion, and that is by Han, who would later go on to die and then be reincarnated as Noob Saibot, which is he's basically just a ghost demon of Sub-Zero.
Got it.
And then his brother does take up the mantle of Sub-Zero, but he's a good guy this time. He's Kung Luang, I think, something like that. I know I've just pronounced that as the most racist way possible.
That was the whitest you could have ever done it.
But yeah, so that's the thing in the games, and then Scorpion appears in a worse design, and
I also thought it was better. The mask was a little bulky. I like the tunics better here than
the tunics look better, but the mask looks so I don't know what they were doing with it. It looks like a gas mask.
It's a respirator, is what it is. He's wearing a respirator because he got his skull knocked off, so the mask is holding them together. They don't explain how he lived. They explain
no. They don't explain that at all. They explain that Sub-Zero dies and his brother took up the mantle. They don't explain that at all. Sub-Zero's like, "Hey, you guys need to move." Scorpion just takes Katana and then both of them disappear, and it's never mentioned again that they ever exist.
No, never.
But
it was almost like
the biggest issue.
It felt a lot more like, well, we have a Mortal Kombat movie. We need Scorpion and Sub-Zero in it, or it's not a Mortal Kombat movie. Because they're, from an outsider perspective, they're the most iconic characters. The two of them are the two that everybody knows, regardless as to whether you've played Mortal Kombat or not. You know Scorpion and you know Sub-Zero. Those are the two that without a doubt you know. I mean, that's just that once again from my perspective, because those are the two that I know the best. Because they're the most iconic looking ones. They're they got the rivalry or whatever.
They're on the cover of every box.
Right. I mean, they're the ones that when you see them, you know. So it's almost like you have to put them in this movie. They could have done it better.
Well, the biggest issue with this movie is that they tried to squeeze in the plots of Mortal Kombat 2 and 3, and in doing so, they're like, "Oh, we need all of these characters from Mortal Kombat 2 and 3." So half the time you get characters who just appear, then die, or name drop someone, then die, or just don't even really appear and then die.
Well, and that's sort of in vain with the first one. The first movie had that same thing going on where characters just kind of appear and disappear. It's like a DC movie, like a DCU film. Like characters just kind of show up and you're expected to know them already.
Well, the reason it works better with this movie though is that there's so many that you kind of get used to it. With the first one, it didn't do that, and those were like the main characters.
Well, yeah. I'm going to break this down really quick, and I was going to save this for the end. There is a reason that this movie is more fun to watch than the first one. And it's not that it's a better movie, it's that the first one isn't bad enough. Mortal Kombat 1995 is not bad enough. And I told you this last week, and you didn't believe me. It's too good. It's a bad movie, and it's horribly boring, but it's not bad enough to be enjoyable. This movie is like classic B-movie schlock with the bad special effects and good action to kind of boost that up, and the dialogue is so hokey and corny, and you can laugh at almost every scene of this movie, whereas the first one, it's not bad enough to make you laugh, but it's not good enough to make you enjoy
It's bad.
it.
It's bad enough to make you bored. Um, uh, but yeah, that like so what just happened there where characters move to a place, they fight people, and then move on. That's the movie. So after this, you get Sonya meeting Jax again, and they have to fight Cyrax. Jax has these giant robotic arms, which look so like they're so bulky, um, and they're just like she's surprised at them, and there's no reason they should be there, other than like
He has them in the video game. Like I mean
pretty
that
much, yeah.
that yeah, which I didn't mind them all that much until the end, where
Right,
he
yeah,
takes them off.
where it's revealed where it's revealed that they're just kind of like on his arms. Because so in the games, I believe it is Shinnok or Shang-Chi who uh uh basically removes his arms. Like they just get like taken off him. He gets amputated. In the new movie, it's Sub-Zero who does it. But then yeah, he gets the robotic arms to replace those, and in this one, he just has them because, and the Raina's like maybe the real robotic arms were the friends we made along the way.
Well, and it's they're fine. I'm okay with him having them, but I
Oh no,
assumed they were. I assumed they were robot arms. Like I assumed he had his arms removed and replaced with robot arms.
right,
But
right.
he
You think they're
didn't.
like cybernetic, like built in,
Like
or at the very
enhancements. Yeah. No, but
yeah,
they're
like
like armor.
they're just they're just sleeves.
I mean, it's so weird because
Yeah, so
Sonya Blade makes the I thought it was a joke, but turns out it's Jax's arc for the movie. That he's got
yeah,
some
she's like,
self-esteem issues.
what have you got in yourself now?
Like you're like, oh, you got some self-esteem issues. You need to work on that so that you can see how strong you really are. The robotic
Right, 'cause
arms are
he's
the friends we made along the way, and it's and then that's his arc for the movie. Like it was an offhand joke, but nope, that's actually his character arc. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and my favorite part about Jackson in this movie is that him and Sonya go on this trek to try and meet Raiden at the Elder God Temple, and the entire time she's like, "Hey, look, I fought with Liu Kang and Johnny Cage. We fought in this tournament. You guys, you don't understand. We beat Emperor Shang Tsung," and he's just like, "I don't know who any of these people are. What are you saying?"
Jax is my favorite character in this movie because he doesn't understand. He's just like, yeah, I'll help you out. Like,
He's like the audience standing.
yes, absolutely. And he's like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't know what's happening. But you know what? You're my friend, Sonya Blade. You're my partner. So I am going to be there for you. And we're going to have a great time fighting Johnny Sins. It's great. I loved Jax in this movie. I even loved the arm sleeves because they were so funny and made no sense. It's so stupid. This whole movie is so stupid.
This whole movie is so dumb. So yeah, Jax and Sonya beat Cyrax, and they move on with their lives. Every now and again, we get cuts to like Shao Kahn and his people, and like they'll be like, "Hey, I've captured these guys," and he like, "You've captured them? Kill them!" And then he just kills his general, and that's like it. He's answering to his dad the whole movie. Um, then Liu Kang meets Nightwolf, who is in a horrible furry outfit. And he appears as a wolf, and he's like, "You should be an animalistic man."
Okay, is that a thing from the games too? Because that's something I was confused on.
So in the games, Nightwolf is a Native American who, he's in touch with the spirit world, and as such can conjure like bears and wolves and eagles and stuff like that. But they're very specifically spirit animals. They're not like he doesn't himself become one. Though he can kind of like he can allow the spirit to possess him, so he gets the strength of a bear or the speed of a wolf or something. But he never turns into a werewolf like this movie.
Okay, got it. I will say, respect to this movie for getting an actual Native American to play him.
I was gonna ask, is he like genuinely Native American?
Yeah, his name is he's a hip hop artist, as well as actor, businessman, that kind of thing. His name is Lightfoot, and he's an actual Native American. And in the '90s, that wasn't all that common. And so I will say,
I mean, it's not all that common even today, really.
well, yeah, I mean that's true. But you got Hawk from Twin Peaks, but they did get an actual Native American to play him, which, especially in '97, is very notable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Although they made him turn into a werewolf, so I don't know. He probably should have passed on it.
It like I don't want to be like, oh, it's racist, because I don't know if it is racist, but it just it doesn't feel quite right. I should say
it feels racist, but we're not sure if it is.
right. We're not at liberty to be like, oh yeah, that's directly racist. We're just gonna say it made me mildly uncomfortable, but he's in the movie for one scene and then he buggers off, so it's fine.
Right. He tells Liu Kang that he needs to find his animal, his spirit animal or whatever, and then we get like a glimpse at the greatest scene in all of cinema history that is to come. And then we move on. Like, that scene happens and then it's done. I mean, it's great how this movie doesn't rely on the things that happened previously in the movie for the story to continue, quote unquote story. Everything just kind of happens and then unhappens, and then here we are.
Right, yeah. So he tells Luke, you need to find your animalistic side, and he's like, you need to pass these 3 trials. You never find out what all 3 trials are, and it doesn't really matter, as it turns out.
It's courage is the first one, and then I don't remember the other 2, because I'm pretty sure courage is the only one we actually see.
Well, he gets surprised by this woman Jade, and she like tries to tempt him, and he goes, "No, I like katana." So she fights him.
My heart belongs to another, is I think what he says.
Right,
when this naked woman is caressing him. And it's like, I think there are more effective ways to test his courage, but pop off. If this is what you want to do, go for it.
Right, and then I can't remember what the third test, we definitely never find out what it is. But then he just kind of wanders off of her and is like, "Hey, will you help me find katana?" And she's like, "Yeah, I've got nothing better to do."
Yeah, no, you say that, and that's the joke. Haha, Josh makes it funny, but that's how it actually goes down. He's like, "Hey, can you help us?" And she's like, "Yeah, why not?" Like you never feel any sense of urgency from the woman, or like she wants to be there, which is the majority of the people
characters
in this movie.
Jax is like, at one point Sonya starts berating Jax for not supporting her, and he's like, "I'm in the middle of a desert for no reason. You told me about all this stuff that I don't even know what it is. I'm following you, aren't I?"
Like,
and I'm like,
and I agree with Jax.
Yeah, Jax is right. Jax is doing everything for his best buddy, and she's just insulting him.
And it's
also apparently
like the next scene too.
Self-esteem, courage, and focus. I don't know how anything that he does translates to any of those.
I mean, the courage one I get at the beginning, maybe. I don't know where self-esteem came from, and I don't know where focus came from. I mean, Jax gets his self-esteem.
Right, maybe it's like a Wizard of Oz thing where they all need to get one.
Yeah,
and then they'll be told that they've had it all along.
Yeah. Jax, you've had the courage was the friendship we made along the
way. Liu Kang's always been able to turn into a horrible dragon warrior.
Don't spoil it, Josh. Don't spoil.
Oh, we haven't spoiled anything yet.
No, because we're coming up on Raiden coming back to the scene, which is
so they all kind of go through scenes. Sonya and Jax fight Melina, who is Katana's evil clone. And then,
Josh, you just described the plot of this movie as our characters go through scenes.
There's no like. All that happens is Raiden tells them to go somewhere, and they go, and just things kind of happen along the way. Um, they kill Melina, who's Katana's evil twin, which that's never even explored. And they find everyone meets Raiden at the Temple of the Elder Gods after he consults a piece of water and fire, and they go,
In some of the worst
yeah,
special effects I've ever seen in my life.
they don't even do anything. And he's like, so why did you let Shao Kahn take over this world? And they're just like, things kind of happen, buddy. Get back out there.
We'll see you next time. Like it's
Yeah, like, hey, you got this.
we have faith in you. Like why not?
Yeah, and I think they tell him that Sindel was the key to shutting down the portals, and once they shut down the portals, everything's fine.
But we already know that. We already know
Right, we
that.
already know that.
Raiden said that in the opening of the movie.
Right. Well,
We've known that the whole time.
Well, he needed self confidence. He needed his self esteem back, so he needs to be told that he's right. Everyone just needs self esteem in this movie.
That's the underlying theme. This is actually a David Lynch film, and the underlying theme that you have to figure out on your own is that everybody is looking for self esteem.
Who's Carl McLaughlin playing in the Kombat reboot made by David Lynch? He's got to be Raiden, right?
Today, yes. When he was young, Johnny Cage.
Oh, without a doubt, the Chad. They all meet Raiden, but yeah, they all meet Raiden, who now looks like a Euro trash rock star. He's got like short hair and a sleeveless vest.
It's incredible.
And he's just like, they're like, "Is that you, buddy?" And he just goes, "I feel good. I'm youthful. I'm energized again." And then he fails to open up a portal when Shao Kahn appears and they destroy everything. He like takes 15 minutes to open a portal. They all go through it. They all see that everything's collapsing and it's all an apocalypse. I can't remember how, but then they end up going to the temple that Shao Kahn is at. No, they end up going to the home of Liu Kang, which is where the final battle occurs, quote unquote. I'm trying to think. There's also a part where they try and resurrect Sindel, because they think that if they can resurrect Sindel, she'll be like back on their side, that's something from the games. Sindel and Katana were kind of forcefully taken by Shao Kahn. Sindel kills herself because she's so miserable about it all and she can't bear to live that life. Then he basically resurrects her as an evil slave, so she's kind of a bad guy. So they try and resurrect her. She fakes it and she's like, I'm always been Shao Kahn's, and I never liked you. You're always a crap kid. So they all go back to Liu Kang's home for a cup of tea and the final battle. We find out that Raiden is Shao Kahn's brother.
Yes, which I didn't see coming.
That comes out of nowhere.
Is that not from the games?
No, that's
okay.
The only time that's ever mentioned is Mortal Kombat versus DC, where in his bio it said that Raiden and Shao Kahn are brothers, but that game's not even canon, so that's never been a thing.
Gotcha. Well, see, I assumed it was because it was so out of nowhere and it was so weird and unexpected. I didn't hate it, but
it felt like something that was in a game that they felt like they should put in the movie.
Right, which is the majority of this movie, which that's worth noting. The majority of this movie feels like that, but that's because it is. This thing just comes out of nowhere. And, I mean, I was cool with it. It's fine, but it did kind of take me back a little bit. Because usually when those things happen, it kind of takes you out of a movie. Not that I was all that into this movie to begin with. Like it didn't. The world building was not so spectacular. It roped me right in. But when something like that happens, it does kind of suck you out a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of took me by surprise because it's like, so you see a couple of times that the bad guys that they kill have these weird tattoos that turn into dragonflies that fly away. And they
all look so bad.
It looks awful. It looks so terrible.
Everything in this movie looks so ugly. And the budget of
And
this movie was so much higher than the first one.
really, okay, that part I had absolutely no clue. I thought it was lower.
Okay,
I,
so
I
Mortal
genuinely, I thought it
Kombat
was lower.
1995 had a budget of, it had a budget of $18 million, or $20 million USD. This movie had a budget of $30 million. So it had $10 million more than the first movie had.
Wow, I never would have guessed that.
No.
Genuinely, no. I will say Raiden's like lightning effects look better. Um,
Yes, that very easy plug and play lightning effect looked significantly better than the one they tried to make themselves 3 years earlier.
the and the one with clip art. Uh, but yeah, they find that out because Raiden also has that tattoo, and they're like, that's the other people had that. And he goes, "Oh, this is this is like a birthmark of my lineage." And I'm going, "No, it's a tattoo. It's a tattoo, Raiden. Get
It
it right."
turns into a
Um,
dragonfly, Raiden. Like, I don't know. That's not how birthmarks work, man. Birthmarks are just big freckles, Raiden.
it reminds me of the new Mortal Kombat because in the trailer there's a thing where it's like, "It's the birthmark I've had since birth," which is just an amazing line. Um, but then Raiden's like, "Yeah, this is a mark of my lineage. I mean, only people from my bloodline can use it." Which is where he reveals that he's Shao Kahn's brother and Shinnok is their dad, and that he fought his brother and beat him, but he didn't kill him, so his father disowned him. And his father was going to give his power to whoever killed their brother. I mean, it's one way to get a favorite child, but like,
So,
I it,
I really liked Shao Kahn in this movie up until Shinnok came in, and it's like, oh, you just have daddy issues. Like, on his own, he was actually a somewhat threatening villain, and then it's like the Kylo Ren thing where, like, and I like it when they do this with Kylo Ren, so don't get me wrong, but you know the Kylo Ren thing where he's like super menacing and threatening, and then he takes off his helmet and he's just a big baby. Anytime
and he's Adam Driver.
yeah, right.
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it.
Anytime Shinnok entered the scene, I was just like, oh, now Shao Kahn is lame. And I don't think that was intentional because you don't want the main villain of your movie to seem like a, a whiny little kid. But that's the sense I got throughout most of this movie.
He looks like a big baby. Like he doesn't he's never seemed threatening. And even with the mask on, he doesn't really seem threatening because the mask is 6 times too big for him.
There are several scenes in this movie because the mask covers the top part of his mouth, so you can't see his mouth when the mask is on until he opens his mouth, and then you can see it. There are several scenes where they just dub him with who I'm pretty sure is a different voice actor while the mask is on. And his mouth doesn't move, and it's genuinely beautiful. Also should be noted, this movie, unlike the first one, is not entirely ADR, which is such a breath of fresh air because it greatly improves the enjoyability of the dialogue of this movie.
Yeah. I mean, this movie is it's such a ride. Um, and
We're
like I said,
avoiding talking about the scene that we want to talk about because it's the best scene in the movie.
Right, so they get into a fight. Everyone fights someone else. Jax fights a giant centaur. Sonya fights Ermac, which is like, okay, this is my own personal bias. I was kind of sad that they didn't elaborate on Ermac because he's kind of a neat character. In the games, he's the souls of a million fallen like outworld soldiers who basically became one person. I think a lot like Legion from the first Ghost Rider. that was my first point of reference. He may be an actual character from the Bible. I don't know. But yeah, he's such an character, and he fights Sonya Blade. That's his legacy. And everyone else fights someone else. I can't remember who. We didn't even talk about Baraka in this movie.
We
The
didn't.
guy.
No, we forgot.
Who I like him in this movie. The practical look actually kind of suits him. He gets killed off like instantly, but it was nice to see him show up. But yeah, so everyone starts fighting. And would you like to describe the best scene in the movie?
So we're sitting here and we're watching this film, and on screen at the 1 hour and 15-minute mark during our huge final battle, Liu Kang, our hero, is facing off against Shao Kahn, our villain. You know, it's the classic climax of a movie. Who's gonna win? All hope seems lost. And all of a sudden, we hear Liu Kang shout, "I feel it!" And it cuts to a close-up of his eyes, which is reused footage from earlier in the film. And he gets these yellow lizard eyes. And Liu Kang turns into a giant lizard. I think he's supposed to be the Mortal Kombat logo. I think that's what they're going for.
Well, it's meant to be a dragon, because that in Mortal Kombat 2, his fatality was he basically turns himself into a giant dragon and he bites his opponent in half. But maybe this is where most of this movie's budget went. I can only assume.
Did it?
Well,
what? Hold on. What led you to that conclusion?
Well, okay. When we were talking about Mortal Kombat, we were saying that like this movie had so much money and didn't do anything with it, and we could only assume that had to go towards like the actors, like the guy who played Raiden, whose name I'm now blanking on. But this movie had more budget and looked worse, and I can only assume that that's because they had to animate a giant lizard and a giant Hydra like fight each other, which I prefer the Hydra's Shao Kahn's transformation into the Hydra, because he stands there and he screams and then his mouth becomes his neck.
When I tell you,
he didn't know what to do.
When I tell you, my jaw dropped. My jaw dropped to the floor. I froze in an instant when this happened. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
Genuinely speechless, because there is no way to describe just what this looks like.
It came so out of nowhere. It looked so bad. It hurt a little bit.
It doesn't even it doesn't even pay off to defeat him as a dragon. He bites him, and then they go back to human form because the dragons were too expensive to animate.
I mean, I can only assume that's what happened, and they looked so bad. And then the new gods show up again, or the elder gods. I'm sorry, they show up again, and they because Shao Kahn is bleeding, and they say, and I don't. They say the only way for us to do this is the fair way in Mortal Kombat.
And that's when the music really kicks in, because they say that.
Well, but here's the thing. We just did Mortal Kombat last week. We know who won. Liu Kang won. Why are we doing Mortal Kombat again?
Not only that, but then it zooms in to Liu Kang's face, and he has a smirk, and then the guy just yells, "Mortal Kombat!"
The music kicks in, it starts swelling, which is all fine and dandy. Like that's fun. Why are we doing Mortal Kombat again?
Well, yeah, I don't know why. Because also Shang Tsung's bleeding. He's like, "I'm bleeding like a mortal," and his father goes, "Yeah, that was gonna happen. I told you so." And he's still surprised by it. And then Liu Kang just beats him normally. Again, Liu Kang has
stressed
secured 2
enough.
Mortal Kombat.
Liu Kang already won Mortal Kombat. Why does he have to do it again? The new or the elder gods should just say, "Yeah, Liu Kang already won Mortal Kombat. You guys are done. Like, get out of here, skedaddle."
But you guys broke the rules.
Yeah, you're cheaters. So apparently, if you ever want a new Mortal Kombat, all you have to do is break the rules, and now you get a rematch. I can't wrap my head
Don't
around.
don't even forget about the part where I can't believe this, where it happens once a generation, which is still beyond vague. So how long have they like secured their victory for? Like, is he gonna have to come back in another 10 years and be like, "Hey, I guess I'll fight for another Mortal Kombat"?
Dun, 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 dun. No, it doesn't make sense, and it's baffling to me that that's the point we got to.
That's the climax of the movie. That's how it ends.
Well, yeah, Liu Kang wins the Mortal Kombat, da, 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 and Jax gets his confidence back because he rips his metal sleeves
Right,
off.
the centaur that he's fighting rips off his sleeves and he beats him with his hands.
I will
Sonya
say,
Blade kills the guy by snapping his neck, and then the other two do something.
yeah, I will say I liked the centaur guy. He was hamming it up the whole time. I wish we had seen more of him. He was unbelievably entertaining.
Yeah,
And
that,
then
that was Motaro, who was in Mortal Kombat 2, I think. And he's very straightforward. He's just like, oh yeah, I serve Shao Kahn. I have a race of centaur people.
we're half centaur, half the devil. You get the idea.
We have a weird tail that's super long and looks like a lizard for no reason.
And then Jack says, "I'm gonna make you eat that tail," and he never does. He never makes him eat it.
Oh, can you imagine what kind of fatality that would have been? Oh, that would have been beautiful. I wish they like grabbed the tail and like shoved it in his like throat or something.
It would have been
And
great.
that's how he died. That would have been amazing.
Yeah,
I can't even remember what Katana. Oh, Katana's fighting Sindel this fight. And Raiden's dead.
yeah. No, Raiden is dead for the final battle. It's the Oh, they do this with it's the shoot Professor X thing where they have to nix Professor X at the beginning of every X-Men movie, or he could just solve every problem. Like at the beginning of every X-Men movie, Professor X is out of the scene because he would just solve the issue in a heartbeat because he's so powerful. So they did the same thing to Raiden. They killed him off until the fight was over. And, whatever, it's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, then they win and everything goes back to like normal.
Ish, except for the thing that I thought was going to happen because they kept talking about it. Sonya Blade kept talking about how Johnny Cage was dead for every scene of the movie, and I thought things are going back to normal. People are getting raised from the dead. Johnny Cage is going to come out. Him and Sonya Blade are going to have this nice moment. Nope, he's dead. He's done. Just forever.
That's it. He's done. He's done for because they didn't want to pay an actor to bring back.
I mean, you could have used like reused footage for the beginning of the movie. Just have that scene where he pulls his sunglasses off in shock, and then Sonya Blade cries. There, it's done.
I will say, I also preferred the Sonya Blade in this movie. Like she felt, I don't know, she felt like she was doing more with a character that had less.
That's a great summary of this movie, Josh. Doing more with less. Except for this movie had significantly more. But still.
Doing less with more.
There you go. That's it. And then they raise the Elder Gods raise Raiden from the dead and say, "Hey, homie, we want you to take your father's position as Elder God." And Raiden never says yes or no. He just
goes, "This is your family now."
He just kind of walks over to the team. He goes, "You guys take care of each other. You're a family now." Because the real family was the friends we made along the way. And now here we are at the end of this movie. The credits roll. You get the dun 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 dun. And that's it. That's Mortal Kombat Annihilation. It's done. It's over. It's dead, wrapped in plastic.
Oh, thank God for that. And then, yeah, the franchise died, and there were many fan films and animated things and games that came out over the last 20 years, and now they're rebooting it with Mortal Kombat, the new one.
And a lot of the stuff, a lot of the actors from these movies would go on to appear in the fan stuff. just because they didn't get any work after this movie, and rightfully so. And
Because right.
and that was the end of it.
Yeah, until they made Mortal Kombat 2021, which by all accounts is fine. I
I
haven't
don't know. I
seen it
haven't
yet.
seen it. Yeah.
I'm planning to watch it this weekend, so maybe we know what we're doing next week. But the everyone I've known who's seen it has been like, yeah, it's fun. Our buddy Item described it to us as Mortal Kombat 1995, but better fight scenes, which was basically what this was. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it.
I will say, so this movie, just kind of like final thoughts. As bad as this movie is, they tried. And
They tried. I think you can leave it there, really.
well, this movie has a story.
I know you're trying to reach it. You're trying to, does it?
Yeah, more so than the last one. It has
No, but that's not hard.
It has characters and they do things.
Barely. It has okay-ish fight scenes.
This movie is a great movie to laugh at. This movie is a movie that will give you.
This movie is what everything that you've ever heard about Mortal Kombat 1995 is more about this movie than that one.
I think so. I don't know why this movie has a 2% on Rotten Tomatoes and 95 has a 45. Like it doesn't.
45 is far too high.
Well, so the last one is boring. Mortal Kombat 1995 is a boring film. There's some stuff there, but not enough. Like there's nothing in that movie that makes me think like, wow, this is great. And people love that movie. And there's nothing in this movie that makes me think, wow, this is a good movie. But this movie is enjoyable, and there's a whole lot more to latch onto and to enjoy in this one than there is 95. And that's just my perspective. I know people have fond memories of that movie, and I know a lot of people like that movie, but it's bad. You're wrong. But this one, there is stuff that is enjoyable. There's stuff in there to like. And I don't know. I would recommend this one over the first one any day of the week if you want a funny movie, a funny bad movie to laugh at. This one is the movie.
This is the movie.
This is the only movie that ever will exist. It's all that's left. This movie should be in the Criterion Collection. And it's the only movie there. It's the only movie in the closet. You walk into the Criterion closet, the big C is there, and the only movie you see is Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Well, so, I mean, Godzilla vs. Kong, 1963, is in the Criterion Collection, and the end of this movie is basically just that. So, why not?
You're not wrong.
This movie is frustrating, but it also means the way that it's done means you don't care about it to the point of the frustration just makes me laugh.
I wonder how much of that has to do with this movie not being praised. Because we went in with significantly lower expectations for this movie than we did 95. I wonder how much of that has an effect on it.
Right, yeah, because admittedly, everyone has been talking bad about this movie for so long.
I mean, this movie is 28 years old now. I mean, it's not like it's recent. It's got quite the legacy it's left.
Right, yeah. Well, and every time you've heard about this movie, you've probably heard about how awful it is and how terrible the CGI and effects are, or how terrible the movie itself is. And that's true.
Yeah, no. We've said some positive things about this movie. All of that
right,
Josh said is true. This movie sucks.
Yeah, don't mistake the praise that we give it for praise of the movie itself. It's more like finding out that you've stepped in a dog turd and now you've just stepped into mud. Like, it's not good. It's just comparatively better.
It's like finding out that your mom invited a killer clown to your birthday party, but turns out the clown's just a normal clown, which still kind of sucks because it's a clown, but at least clowns are funny. You know, like it's like you're going to a comedy show and it's just a normal comedy show, but then you find out the comedian's a woman.
Well, there is a very awkward part of this movie. Towards the end, because they start showing like how things are getting better. They show like famous cities, and
It cuts
they
to
at
the
one
Twin
point they
Towers.
showed the Twin Towers, and it was an awful comparison to make.
Well,
Which,
I mean,
bless
it
'em,
was
in 1997 they had no clue. So
no, yeah. We should keep a counter just of all the times we see 9/11 and watching these old movies.
It's absolutely awful. But yeah, this movie's good enough where you can watch it and you'll have a fun time.
This movie is bad
it-
enough where you can watch it and have a fun time. The first one
Right.
wasn't. Get
I
yourself some
wouldn't
buddies.
actively watch it again.
No, I would never, ever choose to watch this movie again. But I also would never choose to watch the first one again. And if I had to pick one of the two, I would pick this one.
Well, if both of these movies were on TV and they were the only things left on TV because
In
everything else has been
existence.
destroyed in a horrible nuclear apocalypse, I would leave this on compared to Mortal Kombat 1995.
Yeah, if 95's the only one on, I'm probably going to go like grill some burgers or something in the nuclear apocalypse. Like, I'm not going to watch it. But I would watch this one because it's fun. It's bad, but it's fun. And for that reason, it gets my vote. And I think we're kind of in agreement there. Now, we both hated the first one. And don't get me wrong. Well, I can't really say that I hate this movie. I more just think it's bad.
I don't hate this movie. It's just not good.
Right. That's kind of
but
where we're at.
it's got a weird heart to it.
It does, more so than the first one did. And Roland Emmerich. Nope. Who directed the last one? What's his face?
Paul W.S. Anderson.
Yeah, Paul W.S. Anderson. Eat your heart out, because
He's a hack.
we far prefer the movie by famed director John R. Lonetti.
This guy made Annabelle and The Butterfly Effect 2, and it's better than anything that Paul W.S. Anderson has made.
It's true. It is true. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Semi Pro. We will see you next week. Me and Josh haven't decided what we're gonna do. It may be Mortal Kombat 2021. Maybe.
Who knows? Maybe we'll round out this series by ending on something that might resemble a high note.
this one might be okay, and that would be such an improvement over the last two.
I pray. I just give me a movie that has cool action, cool SFX, and a cool theme. That's all I ask. I don't need a big story or plots or characters. I just need.
Mortal Kombat.
I just need something that will distract my eyes for 3 minutes
Yeah.
and yell Mortal Kombat at me very loudly.
Yeah. All right, that'll do it. We'll see you on the next episode. We'll see you on the next episode of Semi Pro. If you are watching on YouTube, consider leaving a like, maybe subscribing to the channel. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts, leave a review. Let us know what you think. If you want to contact us, you can message me or Josh on Instagram at Barrett Digital, at BritEdit, and we will see you on the next episode of Semi Pro.